Good evening, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for your Commander-in-Chief. Today I got a very upsetting phone call and information. I'm in behind Walmart here. Where I want you to look across the street here is you can see the cranes lifting out the homeless temporary shelter. Vicky Hopes wrote an article that it's to make way for the highway. The city bureaucrats told me they're going to rush equipment and everything in here to cover up what Ross Siemens did. So let me explain something to you. We're going into the beginning of winter, and the cold spell is now happening. And if you drive through Abbotsford, you can see all the homeless huddling around Tim Hortons and businesses, and you can see them everywhere. We saw this, so you need to tell me that I'm running for your Commander-in-Chief on Gladys Avenue, where Ross Siemens and the councils that collaborated with him went and put all them rocks. That was to make room for Highway 1 coming through with David Eby. So we needed to move all the homeless down Gladys Avenue in front of the Salvation and everywhere. We went up through town with bylaw and we removed all the homeless. Everybody knows. But it calls for the BC Conservatives and 1BC to put a stop to this. This could have waited months and months till we had another place to put them. It's an act of terrorists. It calls for the human rights. But I want to explain something to you. When Henry Brown was the Commander-in-Chief of Abbotsford, he used every outlet he could, from Rob San Diego of Archway to everybody, to call out the attacks that other people did. Remember that. The chicken manure on Bruce Banman, he had activists out there. These were all people under his thumb. I learned from the city today that the attack on the homeless by the mayor, Ross Siemens, and the constant manipulation of this man, Ross Siemens, the rocks and everything else, knowing that this ain't about Highway 1. This is about what Henry was doing so they didn't move to Valley Road. But you could see the underwriters, the ghost riders. Remember what Darren Braun said, Henry. Remember, you write one bad thing about me, he told Tyler Olson in that Abbotsford rag, I'll put it on its belly. You could see the protection Vicky Hopes has wrote to protect Ross Siemens. You could see it when she made Corky Neufeld pressured with the Abbotsford News to step down from school trustee because he was an MLA. You could see the manipulation of Vicky Hope's newspaper when Bruce Banman became an MLA and he was a city council to step out. But you could see the protection of Vicky Hope's with Patricia Dries, and knowing she's on Archway, knowing we're going into the starting of the winter, there was nothing. So for Archway to get a little bit of cash to shut up because Ross Siemens pulled the contract on the recycling, they gave him $32K and said that was for domestic violence. And you can see the cranes and everybody working really late. We need to get them out of here tonight because when we get it out, we can scandal. The city bureaucrats told me, Mr. Pelican, they're rushing it fast and then they're going to try to park equipment and stuff. They got it lined up in Langley just to flood this area to make it look like it. This doesn't take no brains to know that this ain't about Highway 1 because the stuff on Gladys Avenue in front of Ross Siemens' gas station in front of the Salvation Army. And I want you to look, I'll show you a podcast tomorrow. All the homeless have moved now and made temporary shelters between the two train tracks, which now they're coming out of the cold to run to some place and get a drink, that they're putting their lives in danger with these big freight trains coming through here. But where are the people that were always targeting the other opposition? Remember the constant abuse on the homeless, and they called it out. Today we don't see any of them because Henry was controlling them and manipulating them to go out and make speeches like that so we can humiliate Bruce Banman. We can humiliate the other people. But when it comes to poor Rossi, you can see Henry. Today I'm live, ladies and gentlemen, in front of Walmart. And I want to again say, I don't think this had anything to David Eby, because David Eby's in a lot of scandals. And I don't think David Eby would have been saying to Ross Siemens, we need to rush that Highway 1, because why? David Eby's a little smarter than Ross, and so is the whole of Abbotsford. We won't be loading gravel on Highway 1 in the middle of the winter because you can't get a proper compactation done because you got water and ice freezing, and when it melts, it sinks like that highway Henry was building there, up there in Abbotsford. in behind Abbotsford that caved and sunk down because you don't get proper compensation. So we won't be doing that. So this was just a bullshit excuse to cover from Ross Siemens. Ross Siemens should be so humiliated that he's going to his gas station every day. I showed you he's working there. And he should be emptying everything out and putting temporary shelters in there to say to David Eby, look at that. I emptied my gas station to put the homeless in because the province doesn't got the kahunas to look after these homeless. I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia, behind Walmart, BC.